Welcome to Voice of the Soul. Here on this channel, we explore emotional healing, inner truth, and spiritual evolution. In today's episode, I invite you to explore Wu Wei from a spiritual perspective and discover how we can embrace the art of effortless living in our everyday lives. So please stay with me and let's begin. Introduction. What is Wu Wei? The philosophical wisdom of Wu Wei, which literally means non-action or non-doing, first appears in the Tao Te Ching, a text that speaks of the Tao as the unnameable, indescribable, and ever-present force behind all existence. Wu Wei is the way in which all beings and phenomena can flow in harmony with the Tao. According to Laozi and his followers, Wu Wei represents a state of being aligned with the natural rhythms of the universe. This alignment means engaging without overthinking, without overexertion, without overimposing, and without resistance. Throughout Chinese history, Taoism and Confucianism have often served as ideological contrasts, particularly in their moral teachings. Their debates revolve around whether one should be more attached or unattached to societal involvement. Taoism emphasizes reverence for the Tao, non-interference, and even the abandonment of the intentional cultivation of virtue. In contrast, Confucianism stresses societal structure, personal duties, and active moral cultivation in relation to family, community, and governance. As a result, Taoism was sometimes misunderstood as a philosophy of passivity or indifference, though this misrepresents its deeper intent. Wu Wei and Spiritual Surrender. When we explore spiritual traditions beyond Taoism, we find a striking similarity in the idea of surrender. In Buddhism, especially in Zen, letting go of the mind's chatter and conceptual frameworks allows one to ground in the present moment with clarity and awaken to one's true self and inherent Buddha nature. Be still and know. Here, a deeper presence guides all things, if only we stop trying to force our way through. Experiencing the stillness within is the only way to see through distortion and illusion. In Hinduism, Sharanagati, self-surrender, is a key practice that allows individuals to transcend the ego and realize their true nature, ultimately leading to moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death, samsara. Moksha is not merely an escape from suffering, but a realization of the true, blissful nature of the self, which is inherently connected to the divine. In Christianity, making a conscious choice to detach from the desires and will of the ego is also central to its teachings. Letting go of the ego or surrendering allows for a deeper connection with God and a transformation of the mind, heart, and character as individuals become more like Christ in their love, compassion, and service to others. In New Age spiritual teachings, surrender is often described as a realignment with a higher intelligence or the divine within. It's the shift from striving and manifesting through willpower alone to co-creating with the universe through trust and inner guidance. Teachers like Eckhart Tolle speaks of letting go of inner resistance to life's flow as the gateway to peace and spiritual awakening. Wu Wei, as a philosophical reflection, aligns with all of these spiritual traditions. It is not inaction, it is the relinquishing of control or resistance. It is a voluntary and flexible adaptation to the unfolding of life. The person practicing Wu Wei is not a recluse avoiding reality, but someone who acts without being entangled in either desire or despair attached to ego. In this way, Wu Wei can also be considered spiritual wisdom, showing us that the surrender of the I, a shift from clinging to an ego-based identity toward embodying a higher consciousness, is the ultimate experimental way of being. The illusion of I, the ego's narratives. To fully understand Wu Wei from a spiritual perspective, we must examine how the ego shapes our lives. Much of our suffering arises from the illusion that I is both the reason and the cause of everything. For instance, the ego tells us, I want to be rich, so I must get more money. If I study hard, I'll get into the top university. If I find and marry my true love, I will be in heaven. If I work on my YouTube channel 18 hours a day, I will get more subscribers. These narratives may seem logical and practical, but the problem is that we place our egoic selves on a pedestal, believing that it is the omnipotent force that dictates the course of our lives. What we've been taught, ambition, industriousness, persistence, and tirelessness in the pursuit of life's goals, often overlooks the supreme force behind our existence. This force is the Tao, God, universal intelligence, or divinity, whatever name you choose to call it. Ego-based narratives limit our minds and confine our spirits to what is foreseeable and controllable. Yet, we are not merely minds or bodies, we are spiritual beings, eternal consciousness expressing itself through human form. True liberation does not come from racing ahead, but from surrendering the ego's grip and reconnecting with the sacred source that orchestrates all things. To practice Wu Wei is to acknowledge the presence of the supreme force and to revere it. Non-action is not the opposite of action, it is liberation from self-obsession. It was never I who triumphed, it was the flow of life expressing its purpose through me. It was never I who failed, it was a realignment from the universe, not to punish but to teach. You are not the sole author of every result, but a sacred vessel through which consciousness flows. Wu Wei is living in that realization. A parallel from the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's moment of surrender. A powerful example of surrender in action can be found in the ancient Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. In this spiritual dialogue, the warrior prince Arjuna stands on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, preparing to go to war against his own relatives, teachers, and friends. As he looks across the field, grief and despair overwhelm him. He drops his bow, overcome by the unbearable weight of choosing violence over family, and questions the very meaning of duty, honor, and life. But Arjuna's charioteer is no ordinary guide, it is Lord Krishna, an incarnation of the divine. Krishna does not tell Arjuna to abandon action. Instead, he offers him a perspective-shifting truth. This war will happen, with or without you. You are not the door. You are an instrument. Krishna reminds Arjuna that the outcome is already woven into the fabric of the cosmos, and that his suffering comes from clinging to the illusion that he alone bears responsibility for the consequences. His heartbreak, his hesitation, these are the tremors of ego, the false belief that I am in control. Krishna tells Arjuna that he is merely an instrument in the divine plan, and that Krishna is the one who has already slain the warriors on the battlefield. Krishna emphasizes that Arjuna should not be distressed and should fight, as the victory is already assured, and Arjuna's role is to be the means through which this victory is achieved. Krishna's message is clear. Let go of attachment to the illusions. Surrender personal will. Act as part of the cosmic plan. Arjuna's inner transformation begins when he stops resisting. He doesn't run from the battlefield, but he no longer fights for himself. He steps into action as a conduit of the divine will, precisely what Taoists would recognize as Wu Wei, action without grasping, motion without self-centered striving. Conclusion: Wu Wei as a living practice. So, what is the ultimate expression of Wu Wei? It is not about withdrawing from life, but merging with the present moment, where the ego dissolves into a larger, more expansive field of being. When we allow the Tao to flow through us, we begin to understand that Wu Wei is not an excuse for inaction. It is a call to act with reverence, to live with deep awareness, and to surrender to a greater plan that our ego cannot perceive or control. Similar to spiritual surrender in other traditions, it teaches us to release the ego's grip and trust in a rhythm that transcends our individual desires, not as blind faith, but as the wisdom that arises from direct experience. Thus, the next time you hear Wu Wei means non-action, you may pause and reflect. It is not just about taking no action. It is about letting your ego-based mind step aside and allowing the supreme force, the invisible, the indescribable, the ever-present Tao, to guide and transform us. Thank you for tuning in Voice of the Soul. Until next time, stay anchored in your most powerful energy, sending you love and light.